on Russian oil sites this year, a campaign it claims is crippling Moscow's war economy. Security Service Chief Vasyl Malyuk has told reporters the attacks have targeted oil extraction and refining facilities across Russia, calling them part of a lawful response to the Kremlin's invasion. Malyuk has further said the strikes were designed to undermine Russia's military financing and vowed that Kyiv's long-range drone operations would continue. Let's take a listen in to what he said.
Коротко скажу за результатами. Якщо брати з початку року, це майже 160 успішних вражень об'єктів нафтовидобутку і нафтопереробки. Якщо брати за вересень і жовтень поточного року, це 20 об'єктів. Серед них 6 НПЗ, 2 нафтових термінала, 3 нафтобази і 9 нафтоперекачувальних.
Now, Russia has previously accused Ukraine of terrorism, but Kyiv insists its operations are aimed strictly at reducing Moscow's capacity to fund the war. We are now joined by Vasyl Malyuk. She's the former Associated Press bureau chief in Romania, and she joins us live from the Romanian capital of Bucharest. Alison, thank you very much for joining us. Almost 160 successful strikes on Russian oil and refining sites in the year of 2025. How credible are these numbers, Alison, and how meaningful are they against Russia's war economy, war machine, however you would like to put it?
Obviously, every side in this war wants to promote how successful they've been in their attacks. And this is applicable to Russia as well as Ukraine. But we do know that Ukraine is has been very successful in counterattacking Russia, and they are very fierce in their counterattacks or their strikes on Russian sites. So it's possibly true, but it's also designed to show that Ukraine is doing very well, that it is attacking Russia, that it is repelling Russian attacks. And that's important for not just Ukraine, but also for the West, that this is not a lost war and that Ukraine is defending not just Ukraine, but also Europe.
Yes, and Alison, Ukraine claims to target deep into Russian territory with these strikes. Of course, we have seen multiple occasions of that, one including Operation Spiderweb back in June of this year. What does this tell us about Ukraine's constantly evolving capabilities, risk of escalation, of course, and potential blowback here?
Of course, Ukraine doesn't just want to defend its territory, that we've seen in the last year. They also want to strike Russian targets, Russian military targets, not Russian civilian targets, that's what they say. But obviously, the more they strike Russian military targets, the more that Russia will feel that this war has escalated and they have the right to attack other targets. So there is a risk in Ukraine escalating their attacks, striking deep into Russian territory, and therefore, I can't say provoking, but therefore leading the Kremlin to responding not just to Ukraine, but also there have been violations of airspace of NATO countries, and basically of escalating the situation beyond what in the beginning was just a simple, if you like to say that, but just an invasion of Ukraine by Russia. The war has gone far beyond that at the moment, and it's unclear how far it will go and whether it will officially involve other actors as well. It unofficially does involve North Korea, does involve European states, American missiles, etc., but how far it will go, that at the moment is being played out on the battleground.
Yes, Alison, do stay with us. And we move from said battleground over to diplomacy. And Ukraine is pressing the European Union to impose higher tariffs on Russian imports if any member state blocks further sanctions on Moscow. Ukraine's Foreign Minister, Andriy Sybiha, has made a call during the recent meeting with President Volodymyr Zelensky in Kyiv, where he stressed the need for stronger economic measures against Russia. Let's take a listen in to some statements made today.
На початок російської агресії повномасштабної ця сума становила 9,3, здається, до 10. Тобто суттєве зменшення, тим не менше має місце імпорт. І ми також будемо працювати з європейськими партнерами. Якщо станом на сьогодні ці види продукції не включені в санкційні пакети, пане президенте, ми будемо ставити питання про запровадження тарифів щодо цих видів продукції.
Meanwhile, President Zelensky has also condemned Russia's latest wave of strikes on Ukraine's energy infrastructure. He said that these attacks were complex, involving hundreds of drones and several missiles that targeted energy facilities across multiple regions in the country. Zelensky has further added that Russia's reliance on oil exports remains a key source of funding for its war. He has been making recurrent efforts to urge international partners to tighten sanctions and monitor any attempts to evade restrictions through third countries. This comes as the European Commission announced last month that it was preparing a new proposal to impose tariffs on Russian oil still entering through Hungary and Slovakia. The plan aimed at raising costs and pushing both countries to find alternative suppliers. Moreover, the EU Commission's President Ursula von der Leyen also reaffirmed last month that the EU bloc is committed to eliminating all remaining Russian energy imports in a move which is strongly supported by US President Donald Trump. Alison Mutler joins us once again to discuss this. Alison, Ukraine is pressing the EU to hike tariffs and tighten imports against Russia. Of course, the European Union itself is suffering from certain financial issues, restrictions. What room does the EU actually have politically and economically to impose higher duties or bans on Russian trade flows?
It's a tricky issue. As you said before, we have a bloc of 27 members, and we have some members, as you mentioned in your report, Hungary and Slovakia, who are more Russia-friendly, and they're opposed to more sanctions, more tariffs, etc., etc. So it's not necessarily easy to push these sanctions through. But let us not forget, Europe, I think it was last week, imposed its 19th raft of sanctions on Russia, so they are very serious about it. That was at the same time when Donald Trump imposed very serious sanctions on two Russian oil companies, Rosneft and Lukoil, and its subsidiaries, which is the first amount of sanctions. So they are trying to tighten sanctions against Russia to decrease its ability to in this war. And it's not just economic, it's also political. But, you know, Europe is a lot of countries. We're not talking about one single country like the United States. We're talking about 27 members, of which there are some members who would not like to put sanctions on Russia. So they are trying as much as they can, but there is a limited amount they can do. But by the same token, even a limited amount does have an effect on the Russia war effort.
Alison, finally, if the EU does agree to tougher tariffs or even a partial trade embargo, what consequences might the bloc face? Of course, economically, but also politically.
Well, it's also it's politically, you know, we have questions of travel, of visa, etc., etc. But there are also the questions of drones. We mustn't forget this. Russian drones have violated Polish, Danish, Romanian, etc. airspace. Obviously, this creates a sense of insecurity, and of these countries, they are under attack. So tensions, I think, will continue. I think Russia has one interest, which is to maintain tensions in NATO and in the Western world. And so they do feel that they're under pressure. So I think Russia will try every means possible, whether it's a hybrid war, whether it's military, whether it's economic, to do this.
Alison Mutler there joining us live from Romania. Pleasure to have you on the programme.